Hello everyone, and welcome to my Days of Our Lives official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Everett collapses, Tate turns on Brady and Theresa. Days of Our Lives reveals that Brady Black and Theresa Donovan visited Tate Black at the halfway house, where he shut down his mama's clinch and complained about the food there. Tate griped about other effects as well, including all the remedy sessions and how they constantly asked him to talk about his passions. When the content of Tate's letters came up, he lashed out at Brady for participating his own letter with Theresa. Tate's spirits lifted compactly when he heard about Holly Jonas coming off the ventilator, since he hoped she'd wake up and tell the verity. Theresa and Brady gently prompted Tate to prepare for the possibility that Holly might not flash back what happened or that she'd try to condemn him. Tate lost his temper since he felt he was being penalized for his parents being addicts, but he maintained that he didn't ruin his life with medicines like they did. Brady and Theresa tried to get Tate to calm down, but he eventually ordered them to leave since he didn't have to allow callers. When Theresa and Brady tried to protest that they loved Tate, he said that was their problem and added that he abominated them both. As Tate stormed out, Brady and Theresa stood there looking dumbfounded. Meanwhile, Wendy Shin awoke on Trip Johnson's casket and realized she'd fallen asleep in his arms. Trip and Wendy recalled how dirty Officer Goldman duped them into allowing they were going to a safe house, but also she pulled her armament on them and took their phones. Officer Goldman had forced Wendy and Trip into an old tank, which they were unfit to escape from. Although Officer Goldman ultimately returned with a bag of protein bars and water, she suggested Trip and Wendy should portion their inventories. Trip and Wendy assumed Clyde Weston was tangled up in all this and pledged to figure out a way out of the mess together. After Wendy and Trip allowed back to the van lift to their current position, they determined that it might be near the field. Wendy also had enterprises about the reflections and the possibility that someone might close them, but Trip suggested they were demanded alive or differently they'd formerly be deceased. At the Salem PD on Thursday's day's occasion, Ava Vitale told Rafe Hernandez that Trip and Wendy were missing. Rafe learned all the details about Trip not showing up for his shift and called to confirm that Wendy didn't show up for work. Moreover, after Ava criticized Clyde for the hijackings, Rafe pushed her to position with him about why she believed that. Ava admitted her deal with Harris Michaels, but she acted like she was serving as a snitch to help him bring Clyde down. Ava didn't come clean about her medicine operation involvement, but she did argue that her deal with Harris boomeranged. Rafe ultimately ordered Officer Goldman to help with Ava's missing persons report and get a description. At the cantina. On Thursday's DOL show, Steve Johnson admitted he couldn't sleep last night, so he did some digging with the help Stephanie Johnson find out the verity about Everett Lynch aka Robert Bobby Stein. Steve mentioned a John Doe being brought in a Seattle sanitarium at the same time Everett claimed to have suffered an accident. Grounded on the length of this John Doe's stay, that lined up with Everett's interpretation of events, too. Still, Steve had a published dupe of Bobby's motorist's license along with a birth instrument that showed no signs of a binary. Stephanie realized Bobby was indeed Everett, which made her the woman he cheated on Jada Hunter with. In Everett's suite on day's occasion, he left Stephanie another frantic voicemail. After hanging up, Everett tried to make sense of why Jada allowed. He was Herrick's husband and why he couldn't flash back what happened right before the accident. Jada showed up and slogged in with a box that included their marriage instrument along with a marriage day print. Although Jada pushed Everett to just enjoy up to everything he'd done, he came decreasingly agitated since he couldn't recall any of it. Jada eventually took Everett's fingerprints and proved he was Bobby, so Stephanie got updates on that news when she arrived. After Jada prompted Stephanie to run and not let Everett break her heart, she pledged to keep digging and expose Bobby's story, maybe in some rival review. Once Stephanie was alone with Everett, she flew into a rage over him acting like they were erecting a life together when she was really just his doxy. None of it was real according to Stephanie, but Everett dissented since every moment was real to him. Stephanie wondered if Everett was some kind of sociopath, but he maintained that he couldn't flash back his marriage to Jada and also began to feel ill. Everett collapsed on Thursday's day's occasion, so Stephanie tended to him and compactly wondered if he faked passing out. Still, Everett was legitimately pale and glacial, so Stephanie decided they'd more get him to the sanitarium. Back with Jada, she set up Rafe at the Salem PD and told him about attesting Everett was Bobby through his fingerprints. Jada got some comfort from Rafe before shifting gears and preparing to help with the Tripp and Wendy case. Ava also summoned Steve to the station, where she intimately came clean to him about Clyde blackmailing her into the medicine business. Although Ava had done everything she could to cover Tripp, Clyde had obviously gone after their son as well as Wendy. Ava prayed Steve to save their boy, but he sounded offended over her thinking she'd have to maintain for that. Steve claimed he'd track Tripp and Wendy down, but he advised that Ava would make a full concession to the Bobbies. After he did. Everett's lies unraveling, Steve searches Tate's fate, Ava comes clean. Days of Our Lives indicate that Everett Lynch's falsehoods are catching up with him. Steve Johnson searches for substantiation about Everett. Brady Black and Theresa Donovan face Tate. Brady's fate. Ava Vitale comes clean to Rafe Hernandez. Jada Hunter met Stephanie Johnson Swain. Days of Our Lives reveal that after all this time Jada has come face to face with Stephanie Johnson Swain. Unfortunately, this Joe looks exactly like Jada's ex-husband Bobby Stein. Jada is induced that Stephanie Swain is a bad steal, but can she prove he's her ex-husband? Everett Lynch is a bit worried that Stephanie is taking Jada's word for this. Still, Stephanie is just going by what Everett told her. After all, he claims to have been in a coma and unfit to flash back his history. This all makes perfect sense to Stephanie. Why doesn't Everett see that this is completely possible? DOL Steve Johnson seeks answers. Jada is determined to prove that Everett is Bobby. Unfortunately, as a Bobby, Jada has to stay in the confines of the law. Steve has further latitude as a private eye to dig deeper and has no constraints like Jada has. Will Steve end up being the idol for not only Jada but for Stephanie too when he checks into Everett's history? Steve is veritably fond of Jada, but he's also checking into this to cover his daughter. However, he cheated on Jada with Stephanie and played both of them if Everett is Bobby. Steve may have his issues with Everett, but he hasn't expressed any of his issues yet. What will Everett do if Steve comes after him? DOL Everett's lies unraveling, Steve searches Tate's fate, Ava comes clean. Days of Our Lives. Brady Black and Theresa Donovan visit their son. Theresa and Brady have eventually gotten the okay to visit their son who's in a juvenile recovery center. As much as Brady and Theresa want Tate to come home where he belongs, at least Tate isn't in adult jail like he was when he was attacked. Now that point is to clear Tate's name and get him back where he belongs. Meanwhile, Ava is getting further and more concerned about Tripp Johnson and Wendy Shin. Tripp hasn't shown up at work and Wendy is missing as well. Will Ava figure out that Clyde has Tripp after all the pitfalls he has given her and Stefan? Will passing in Rafe help Ava's case? Will Ava come clean about working with Harris Michaels as well? Sal Stowers and Lamont Archie are back as Lonnie and Eli. Days of Our Lives appearances and goings tease a big return of two cherished characters as Sal Stowers and Lamont Archie make their way back to the cleaner. Days of Our Lives, a visit or a stay? With Eli Grant's family house burning down and Lonnie Price Grant's mama suffering from cancer, it looks like the right time for the Subventions to return to Salem with their halves, Jules and Carver Grant. Chanel Dupree and Paulina Price Carver have been talking about Lonnie's imminent release from captivity for a while now, and it seems that's about to be. Days of Our Lives appearances and goings. Sal Stowers and Lamont Archie are back as Lonnie and Eli on February 26th. Lonnie and Eli return to Salem to be with their family members during this delicate and traumatic time commodity suckers have been clamoring for. Eli and Lonnie are a mega-popular couple that suckers didn't want to see leave in the first place. The question remains, are Eli and Lonnie around for a short visit or do they plan to stick around Salem this time? DOL, why did Eli Archie and Lonnie Price leave? Eli and Lonnie allowed. They eventually set up happiness with their children after their first son was stillborn many times prior. Also, Lonnie's natural father returned to city and she ended up killing the vituperative man to get him to leave Paulina alone. Paulina tried to take the fall for her son, but Lonnie confessed and was doomed to a captivity out of city. Eli moved closer to the captivity with their halves so they could visit their mama regularly, but Lonnie was released on redundancy.